Good afternoon and welcome to Generous Futures, Black Voices Leading. My name is Mohammed Lashimi and I'm the President and Vice Chancellor of Ryerson University. We are very excited about this new panel series and we can't wait to dive in the discussion today. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge that Toronto is in the dish with one spoon territory. The dish with one spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. I'm thrilled to be opening the inaugural panel in the Generous Future series. The first 5 panel discussions will bring the diverse identities, experiences, and perspectives of the philanthropy community to the forefront. To kick things off, Generous Futures will explore how charitable giving intersect with Black leaderships, women of color, newcomers, 2S LGBTQ+ communities, and indigenous perspectives. As a recognized leader in equity, diversity, and inclusion, Ryerson University is uniquely positioned to convene these discussions, which provide an opportunity for us all to come together to develop a deeper understanding of how we can contribute to a more inclusive and positive future for everyone. Now, I am pleased to introduce you to the moderator of today's discussion, Dean Donna Young. Donna is our inaugural Dean of the Faculty of Law. Prior to joining Ryerson, she was the President William McKinley Distinguished Professor of Law and Public Policy at the Albany School of Law and a joint faculty member at the University of Albany's Women's, Gender and Sexuality Studies Department. Donna's research focused on law and equality, race and gender discrimination, and academic freedom and university governance. In her first year back in Toronto, Donna has been named in Toronto's Live's 50 Most Influential Torontonians in the New Arrival category, and also one of Canada's top 25 women of influence. Donna, over to you.
Thank you, Mohammed. I'm so excited to be with you today moderating this inaugural panel in the Generous Futures series at Ryerson University. Before we begin, I would like to thank our lead sponsor of this series, TD Bank Group, for helping to advance these important discussions. TD Bank Group has been a great supporter of Ryerson, and we are all delighted that they have joined us on this journey of understanding. Today's discussion is called Black Voices Leading. We will explore the importance of investing in Black-led businesses, supporting Black voices in boardrooms, and giving to Black-focused initiatives to affect meaningful change. I will pose questions to the panel. Following this, I will ask our panelists to respond to questions submitted by you. Today's discussion is being recorded and a link to the video will be emailed to you following the event. I encourage you to share the video with your networks. Now, I'm delighted to introduce you to our panel of leaders. First, Aurora James. Aurora is a Toronto native and New York City transplant. She is the creative director and founder of luxury accessories brand Brother Vellies. Founded in 2013 with the goal of keeping traditional African design practices and techniques alive, while also creating and sustaining artisanal jobs. In June 2020, Aurora launched the 15% Pledge, a nonprofit urging major retailers and corporations to allocate 15% of their purchasing power to Black-owned brands in the fight for economic equality. Welcome, Aurora.
Hi, Donna.
Isaac Olawalafe is a real estate entrepreneur, angel investor, and philanthropist. Isaac's corporation, Dreammaker Inc., successfully operates multiple divisions, including a brokerage, real estate development, wealth management, property management, education, private equity, and insurance. He has received numerous awards and recognition, including a Harry Jerome Business Award, an Enterprise Business Award by Planet Africa, a Business Leadership Award by Leadership and Governance Canada, Inc., and a Public Service Award from the Transformation Institute for Leadership and Innovation and Toronto Board of Trade Award. In addition to his membership in the Ryerson Innovation Circle, Isaac has made a number of generous donations. Notably, he named an educational space in the Ryerson Student Learning Center and launched the Black Innovation Fellowship at Ryerson DMZ. Welcome, Isaac.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
Next, we have one of pro football's most electrifying players ever. Michael Pinball Clemens was the head coach and unquestionably the most recognizable and popular member of the Toronto Argonauts Football Club. Michael has received numerous awards, including the CFL Man of the Year Award, the John Candy Memorial Trophy, an honorary Doctor of Laws degree from York University, Doctor of Humane Letters from the College of William and Mary, the prestigious Order of Ontario in recognition of his dedication and work with charities throughout Ontario and across Canada, and the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. He is also a member of the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame and the CFL Hall of Fame. He has won 6 Grey Cup championships during his career with the Argonauts. Michael is also the founder of the Pinball Clemens Foundation, a nonprofit organization that empowers youth through education. Since its founding in 2007, it's been responsible for the construction of a hospital in Uganda, over 200 schools in developing countries, 2 orphanages in Haiti, and locally awarded more than 200 scholarships. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you so much, Donna.
Next, we have Wes Hall, who is an established innovator, entrepreneur, and philanthropist. As executive chairman and founder of Kingsdale Advisors, he has been named one of Canada's most powerful business people. He is also the owner of QM Environmental, Titan Supply, and Harbor Club Hotel. Wes has been recognized with awards from Ernst & Young. Wes is known for generosity, leveraging his business success to benefit others with a number of impactful charitable initiatives. He's a founder and chairman of the Canadian Council of Business Leaders Against Anti-Black Systemic Racism and the Black North Initiative, committed to the removal of anti-Black systemic barriers negatively affecting the lives of Black Canadians. His board service includes Sick Kids Foundation, Pathways to Education, and Toronto International Film Festival. Wes has also changed the lives of thousands of children in the Caribbean, donating both his money and time. In 2015, Wes was the recipient of the Vice Chancellor's Award, and in 2017, he received an honorary doctorate, both from the University of the West Indies. In 2020, Wes was named as one of Toronto Life's 50 most influential and impactful Torontonians. Welcome, Wes.
Thanks, Donna.
So this is an incredible panel we have today. I'd like to start by asking the same question to all of our panelists. Aurora, perhaps we could start with you, then Isaac, Michael, and Wes. In 1 minute, and I know that's not a lot of time, in 1 minute, can you please describe what role Black leadership plays in advancing the future of giving? And can you tell us about the causes you champion or support?
Oh, such a great question. I think for me and the work that we're doing at the 15% Pledge, it's really about, broadening opportunity and actually looking at our own lived experiences and saying, how can we be champions for change that are going to help that next generation overcome or not have to deal with some of the hurdles that we initially had to deal with in our own careers. at the pledge, a lot of the barriers to entry that we're seeing for businesses that are scaling into the opportunities that have been created by these retailers is actually about financial access. And so really kind of examining what those structures are that are in place to kind of help these businesses scale and help them support their own communities is really paramount and sort of what we're focused on next.
Great, thank you. Isaac.
Yes, in regards to the question around representation and why it's important for Black leaders around donation, the same way as representation is key around doctors, lawyers, and other key professions. So when you look at giving, the more that the community could see Black leaders giving back, the more it'll make that something normal within our community. At Dream Legacy Foundation, our focus is really around driving awareness and exposure in entrepreneurship through our partnership with key institutions, skilled trades, and awareness in other industries where there's a lack of awareness. So health research, and also sports and entertainment, and changing the narrative of how the relationship is with those institutions and the Black community.
Thank you, Isaac. And how about you, Michael?
Donna, I am going to defer to my other panelists for this answer because they are the ones. It is Aurora, right? It is Wes and what he's doing, and Isaac is in what he's doing. The idea is representation. There's an organization that said, "Don't talk about us without us." The more decisions are made without us, the less we will be included. And so my panelists are doing the work that needs to be done as we move forward, because they are having the conversations, they are in the room. And that is, for me, the real tangible difference. And what organizations do we work with? Ones that achieve results. And engagement needs to promote independence, not dependence. We measure so much around engagement today, and engagement many times can lead to dependence. And then they get to a certain age and they cut off the care, and then all of a sudden the kids are left there. And so when we talk about programming, the programming needs to produce results, and that results need to end up in independence of young people, not be dependent on the system.
Thank you, Michael. Now, Wes, before you answer, I'd like to let our audience know that towards the end of this panel discussion, we're going to show a video about the Black North Initiative. So now over to you, Wes.
Yeah, thank you, Donna. So the two causes that I really believe in strongly, healthcare and education. And, in our communities, Black communities, we think giving starts with us. And we feel that we need to be a part of the solution in terms of giving. The most successful philanthropist that I know is my grandmother. I was abandoned at 18 months old, and she took me in and my brother and sister when she was over 60 years old. Could you imagine having that, 60 years old, she didn't complain about it. And she just took us and she gave us love and she raised us. And that's philanthropy, right? That's giving back. It may not be given back financially, but it's given back. We believe in giving back in certain ways. How many of us in the Black community actually, who are not from Canada, who became successful in Canada and send money back home to help your relatives? That's philanthropy, right? But we need to extend that now in society when we see things like, kids not being able to go to school with the right equipment. When it comes to trying to donate money towards causes, even if it's just $20, we need to think about stuff like that. We just tend to think about, once we get to this country, that when it comes to giving back, it should be other people's job, but it's really not our responsibility. And we need to embrace that as a community, because I think as a Black community, we have it within us to support ourselves. Let me say it again. When you think about us as a community, we have about 1.5 million Black people in this country. That is power. That's political power if we organize that group. And that's philanthropic power. Even if we say, you know what, we're going to pick a cause that's Black and we're going to do $10 a year towards that cause. And all 1.5 million of us are doing that. Could you imagine the power that that brings to us? But we need to organize the way that we give back and the way that we approach the community.
Thank you, Wes. And thank you all for that question. Aurora, I'd like to know what was the impetus for the 15% pledge. Also, I understand that the pledge focuses on raising up Black-owned brands in the US and is more focused on the BIPOC business community in Canada. Would love to hear you speak a bit more about the importance of economic equality to these communities.
Yeah, of course. So I launched the 15% pledge in the wake of George Floyd's murder. Basically, I was seeing a lot of major retailers and corporations in general post these messages of solidarity or post Black boxes, post all of these things that were supposed to make me as a Black woman feel like they stood with me. And, you know, I sort of had to understand those messages from two different sides of my brain. The Black woman who was hurting and also the Black entrepreneur who, you know, was seeing the market and you know also the barriers to entry that I've had and, you know, that others who look like me have also had. And I sort of said, you know, what would standing with me actually look like if you're a major retailer? You know, Target had made like a $10 million donation or something. And, you know, to me, that's great. But you know, Black people in America shop at stores like that every single day and spend more than $10 million in one morning, right? So what does actually supporting the Black community look like? It looks like investment in the Black community and in a way that, you know, is equal, is fair. And so I said, you know, Black Americans are roughly 15% of the population in America, and therefore major retailers should commit 15% of their spending to Black-owned businesses. You know, a lot of people think that it was something that I had, you know, workshopped for many months and planned the launch. It really wasn't. I ideated it on a Saturday. I posted it on social media that same Saturday. We, you know, built the website Sunday overnight, launched the petition Monday noon, became a nonprofit by Wednesday, and by day 10, Sephora via LVMH became the first major retailer to commit to the 15% pledge. Since then, I think this morning we had another announcement. I think now we're at 21 major corporations that have taken the 15% pledge. We've created a pipeline of opportunity for Black-owned businesses worth over $7 billion. And we're really just getting started. There are multi-year contracts. We're about to announce our biggest retailer who has the longest contract, which is 10 years. So this isn't something that we're just working on right now. This is something that we're working on really, truly forever. It's a very real multi-year proposition with quarterly audits. And the 15% pledge is now a thriving nonprofit and one of the fastest growing nonprofits in North America. So it's really exciting. And to me, you know, we cannot talk about racial justice if we are not talking about economic inclusion and equity. And we know that Black businesses are closing at a rapid rate. We're expecting over 40% of Black-owned businesses in America to close as a result of this pandemic compared to 20% of overall businesses. So that difference is quite jarring. And we know that Black businesses are more likely to employ Black people and support Black communities. So in order for us to have thriving Black communities, we need to have thriving Black businesses. And that's really what the 15% pledge is all about.
That's fantastic, Aurora, and congratulations. That's just unbelievable growth in a really short period of time. I really congratulate you. Isaac, the Black Innovation Program at Ryerson is a transformational initiative to support Black entrepreneurs. What are some of the challenges and barriers Black entrepreneurs face, and how are these barriers being dismantled to empower the next generation of Black entrepreneurs?
Yes, absolutely. Great question. And just to give a little bit of background, when the Black Innovation Program was birthed, it came about 6 years ago when we did the first gift at Ryerson, the Digital Media Lab, Isaac Olafe, which was a room to provide access. Number one, the keyword access to students for technology and to utilize that access to technology to create new business ideas. And when I did that gift and got a tour of the great work that Ryerson was doing within the DMZ, I saw the birth of entrepreneurs and being mentored and being motivated within an institution. So Dream Legacy Foundation's main goal was to bridge the gap between the institutions and the Black community when it comes to key areas like entrepreneurship. So when we saw that, we knew that we have to create an environment to be able to do that for Black entrepreneurs. What are Black entrepreneurs missing? They're missing access to mentorship. They're missing access to traction team. They're missing access to resources. They're missing access to an environment and an ecosystem that's being heavily funded by government and by corporations. We know within the tech and innovation space, Robert F. Smith said it, that technology and innovation is the last equalizer opportunity for the Black community when it comes to wealth creation. We've seen with COVID the impact of technology and what it has to the economy and what it has to the different communities. And within the Black community, which has been the community most impacted by COVID and lacks resources and lacks tech businesses, that's why we created a Black Innovation Program. And now we're proud to say that well over $3 million has been raised. We've gone from a program to support 10 entrepreneurs every year for 5 years to now over 100 entrepreneurs every year. But it's the ripple effect, because now when we have thriving businesses within a sector that's only growing, which is technology innovation, now we have mentors, representation with mentors. Now we have employers. Now we have businesses that could look and see which youth can be doing internship within their businesses in all different sectors. Because what's beautiful about technology, it cuts across all industries. You have a specialty in healthcare, fine, there's health tech. You like sports, there's sports tech. You like real estate, there's prop tech. You like insurance, there's insure tech. So that's why tech and innovation is so important for the Black community and why it was important to launch the program.
Isaac, that is also absolutely fantastic that you've built that infrastructure for all of these opportunities. And thank you for doing that and for joining with Ryerson to do that. Michael, your foundation, the Pinball Clemens Foundation, provides marginalized youth with educational resources and options to help them integrate into the mainstream of society. Can you tell us a little bit more about the positive changes you have witnessed in marginalized youth through the support of your foundation?
I sure can, but before I do, I want to once again acknowledge our panelists. Aurora, just magnificent. Isaac, I'm just so proud of the people here and the work that is being done. And for us as a foundation, our real effort is trying to take young people tangibly from the margins to mainstream. Over time, there are other things that we like to do, but the My Brother's Keeper model has 6 steps. We are doing 3, 4, and 5. So 3 is having kids ready, finish high school, ready for post-secondary. 4, finish post-secondary, ready for opportunity or for employment, and then number 5 is successfully entering the workforce. And so that's 3, 4, and 5. We want to one day get back to making sure that kids are ready for school. When they enter school, that is being introduced to letters, numbers, colors. We also want to go back to reading at grade level at grade 3. Those are 1 and 2, so fundamental pieces. And so that's where we are, working with youth who are high school age and going into post-secondary, either education or training. What does that look like? We have young people there's a 12-week program called Hammerheads, where young people will go for 12 weeks with the program that's really regimented, and they will go into a job averaging $14 to $25 an hour. They can expect to make 6 figures by the time they're 30 if they stay with it. There's an IT program where they make $39,000 a year. Their average household income is only $32,000. So most of them at 18 to 20 years old are already making more than their parents. And they go to a job in that situation within 15 weeks. 80% of those young people make it to a job. 85% of those in trades make it to a job. And we have a new program now that's working with the banking system, Foundations of Banking. And so there are 12 Black youth who will be going through this program, who are already actually going through it at George Brown. They're being paid $21 an hour as they go through the program itself. And after a 12 weeks in the workplace on international banking is what it's called, they'll actually have an opportunity to become full-time, fully employed, and so full-time employees. And so that is the concept. We have several other things that we are in the works of doing, of taking young people from the margins to mainstream. We also have a group of 50 young people, 100 next September, who are in college or university. We take care of books and tuition, and then we have a mentorship process, which is the real key, is we're there for them to mentor them along, and also take care of some of those situations that come up when you're in a marginalized situation. So some of our youth are actually in a shelter, some are in foster care situations, and some are in marginalized communities. And so with that, we do things like a grocery card. Sometimes we even have done first and last month's rent, whatever those, helping them to respond to what's happening in their life. And so that's a little bit of us. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Michael. And I really hope that some of your students kind of stop someplace like 4.5 or something, come to Ryerson Law School, right? Go to the law school, become a professional in that way. I would love to collaborate with you more on that. Absolutely. Wes, you're next. You have a remarkable career in business and corporate settings. How important is it to support Black voices in boardrooms? And do you have any advice for anyone who feels that their voice is not being heard in a corporate setting? Do you have any advice for the corporate community that is seeking to increase Black leadership in their organization? And what are some of the changes we see when we support Black leadership?
So I get the long question.
That is a long one, yes.
You know, when I look at Aurora and Isaac, I don't see any gray in any parts of their bodies, you know, which shows the importance of having young people getting really engaged. When you think about the courage that it took for a young Black woman to say, I'm going to go to corporate America and I'm going to embarrass them to do something more than just making a hollow statement of support. And when you think of a young Black man that says, you know, I'm going to go to the universities, I'm going to go to all these different partners to put all these systems in place to help the community. You know, I didn't hear anything in their statements that says, I'm going to do all these things because it's going to be good for me. I think everything that they've done actually could be to their detriment, right? And so when we want to help the community, we have to be prepared to sacrifice something, whatever that something is. And it could be that you may not be invited to Christmas dinners with people that you're close to because of the fact that you just called them out, or you're not invited into the boardroom because, well, you just called me out and you're not going to be in there. We have to be prepared to be uncomfortable and give something up. So in all my years on Bay Street, I go into a ton of boardrooms, and everybody knows the boardrooms look the same in corporate Canada, right? For years they start to change slowly. And there were, you know, old white men in the boardrooms. And there's nothing wrong with that, because if I set up a company, generally I'm going to go to people that I'm close to and I go, you want to serve on my board? Right? And that's how I fix it. But if I start to grow and become bigger and I start to go to different stakeholders to get capital and customer and stuff like that, I now have to look at my organization and say, does it represent that community? The community that I serve, does it represent it? And then I have to change my mindset to now say, I'm going to build an inclusive organization. The problem is that in corporate Canada and corporate United States, they're very slow to make that pivot. And unfortunately, they have to be pushed. And it started pushing by the gender diversity movement. We need to have genders. We need to have a gender in the boardroom. And that gender diversity movement kind of switched because they go, okay, we're going to listen. But then they go, but where are the when you go into boardrooms, then you saw the gender and 50-50 in some cases, and you look around and go, where are all the women of color? They weren't there. So we changed from, a group of people looking the same way to a group of people looking the same way, but different gender. So we need to have a conversation. We need to change that as well, right? So the whole genesis behind the Black North Initiative, so far we have 450 companies that have signed the pledge, represents $1.3 trillion in value. We only have 2 banks that hasn't signed a pledge in this country, but every single other banks and insurance company have signed it. We have pretty much all the major energy companies, tech companies, and so on, multinational, Google, Facebook, and Instagram, and so on, have signed it. And what we've asked them to do is similar to what Aurora has done with the retail sector, is that Black people represent 3.5% of the population. So I want you to look to see in your own organization if you have systemic barriers that prevents Black people from being successful. And I want you to start at the top. Look at the boardroom. And if there are no Black people, and we put Indigenous as well in the boardroom, ask yourself, is there a systemic reason behind that? And then fix it. You go down to the C-suite, and if you look around the C-suite and there are no Blacks and Indigenous, you ask yourself, is there a systemic reason behind that? Fix it. And you go to the pipeline, and if there are no Blacks and Indigenous in your pipeline, fix it. And here's how you fix it. Black people represent 3.5% of the population in Canada. Your board should be 3.5% Black. Your C-suite should be 3.5% Black. And we're also asking you to encourage Black students in your organization by making sure that you make room for 5% of your student population to be Black. And we also want you to help the Black community. We want 3% of your donation, corporate donation, to be towards the Black community. So all those 440 companies, 50 companies that signed the pledge, that's what they've committed to doing. And those changes with respect to numbers and inclusion in the boardroom and the C-suite, they have a timeline, and they committed to saying they're going to do that by 2025. So we know as business people, if you don't measure it, you don't manage it, right? So that's why we have to put numbers. As corporate leaders, we live and die by numbers. Every quarter, we have to report our numbers to the street. And if the number miss what we told the street we're going to do, we have to give them an explanation as to why we missed, right? So we're using the same kind of discipline in this process to encourage corporate Canada. So how do we encourage people to get into the boardroom? Well, the interesting thing about the boardroom is that you have to be invited in the boardroom. You can't just knock on the door and say, I want to come in. You have to be invited in the boardroom. So what we're encouraging companies to do by putting these targets together is to say, now we're going to go out there and we're going to find Black people to invite into the boardrooms. And we're going to go in there and find Black people to invite into our C-suite. And we're going to go find those students. And if our pipeline, because keep in mind that the pipeline is what drives, people into the C-suite and to the board. So we're not going to invest in our pipeline if we have no Black people there, to make sure that we have a path to get to the C-suite and to the board. So that's really what, that's how we can now look at those Black talented people. And by the way, every single law firm in this country also signed the pledge, right? Unfortunately for the law firm, instead of 2025, they have to 2030. Why 2030 for them? Because of the fact that they have nobody in their pipeline, zero, right? So now they have an opportunity to build a pipeline to allow for that. So when Black students and the people of color in your program, Donna, graduate, now every single one of these law firms have committed that they're going to make sure that they hire these students, and then also they bring them up and train them so that they can become partners in their law firms. So we feel that the only way to get people into the system is to change the system. And so now that the system is being changed, we think that the next generation of West Halls, I'm not going to walk into a boardroom and I'm the only one there. I'm expecting that there's at least going to be a couple of me there. And hopefully when they see that I'm performing and having Black people there is actually good business, there's not just going to be 1 or 2 or 3, there's going to be multiple. And eventually we're not going to look at people's color before we hire them. We're going to say, does this person have a good brain? Can they get the job done? And we're going to hire them on that basis. That's the end goal.
Thank you, Wes. And you know, the Black North Initiative has been enormously successful in the few months that it has been in operation. And thank you for mentioning the law firms. Ryerson Law is, of course, going to be working with Michael and with you. We're kind of in between there. And we take seriously our role in providing the legal profession, people of color and Black people in particular, to help diversify the legal profession. It's very much needed. Aurora, next to you. Because you're based in the US, how does the issue of justice and equality impact the ways in which Black businesses are perceived and supported there? And what do you think is unique? And what are some lessons for Canada?
I think it's so different, honestly. Like all of the issues in Canada versus America are very different. And I think there was a pretty steep learning curve for me moving to America a decade ago and sort of understanding how nuanced the issues here are. You know, obviously Black people are a much higher percent of the population here in America as well. I think that the biggest learning, I would say, is that there is a fatigue that exists here that I'm not sure exists in the exact same way in Canada, you know? And there is, you know, it's tough to talk about, but there's a little bit more of a melting pot feeling that has happened here, in that Black Americans who are descendants of slaves do not have access to their direct cultural history pre-slavery in the way that a lot of Black Canadians do, where they know they came from the Caribbean or whatever. So it's like the diversity amongst the Black community is a little bit different, and the feelings are a little bit more different, and it's complicated in a very different way. And, you know, I think that all has to be addressed. And I think that, you know, post George Floyd, there were a lot of different asks. It wasn't just the 15% pledge. You know, there were a lot of different asks that a lot of people had. And Black people in this country are definitely not a monolith, nor are they in Canada. And I think that everyone's going to have to chip away at a different side of the issue and the barrier and the blockade. And, you know, in order to get past that, we're all going to have to tackle the area that feels most important to us. I would say key learnings are just that, you know, we really have to support the people that are directly supporting their own communities. And I think what I see a lot in America, and especially in the South, you know, spending time there, that those entrepreneurs are really the pillars of their communities. And I want to make sure with the pledge that in the pipeline we've created, we're making sure that we're scaling those businesses instead of just, you know, celebrities who are Black, who have product lines or whatever, because that's also really important. So I think we all have to be diligent there.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I lived in the States for a long time, and it's kind of interesting to see the similarities and differences. Isaac, you're next. In many ways, you represent the next generation of philanthropy. Describe how this next generation thinks about giving back and what kind of impact in others in your age group expect to see from your investments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, I've been fortunate to have individuals close to me like Christian for over 10 years, and really helping me with some of the decisions that I was able to make and engagements I was able to make. And very early, it was clear that any investment or donation, whether time or resources, with any institution, had to be an institution that's willing to also give as well. And given the sense of an opportunity for there to not just be a one-off donation, but something that has a generational impact, something that has the ability to create the awareness that is missing, and the ability to create more interest from the young, other young individuals to be one to engage that institution as well too. Like, so I know from the first time we did a gift with, whether it be U of T or the partnership with Canada Basketball, those types of impacting gifts and sponsorship was meant to show that within those spaces, we could have different types of relationships with those institutions. Within the sports space, we could have a different relationship within sports outside of playing on the field and on the court. And And pinball has shown that when he was in leadership within Toronto Argonauts. We wanted to show that within Canada basketball, there's more than just playing on the court. We could also beat a jersey on the sponsorship. We could be the president of the team like Masai on the Raptors. So now the gifts that we do, they have to have those transferable generational impact. So the relationship again with the Black Innovation Fellowship is to show other entrepreneurs that by giving back, you can make ripple effects within your gifts. And I think that's what new donors and those in our generation will be looking for as well, to engagement and willingness for a win-win.
Thank you for that. Michael, your foundation has been around for many years. Tell us about what you have observed in terms of the issues youth were facing when you started the foundation and what has changed or remained the same.
I may like to take this from a 500-foot level and sort of do more of an overview. We are moving, however slowly, but we are moving from a subsistence model to an assistance model, right? So subsistence gives you just enough so that you rely on the system, right? And assistance is really allowing you to get to that point where you can take care of yourself and do those things. So today, again, this panel represents exactly that. They're representing real opportunity where people can engage at a level that allows them to become independent and strong and viable and have their own dreams, where previously, we kind of depended on the system, and whatever the system gave us, we kind of accepted. And so we are now growing in positions and growing in status, and it's not going fast enough. But the people on this call, you've chosen the right people on this call, because the people on this call are accelerating that process. And so it's with a great deal of gratitude again that I joined it.
Thanks, Michael. And then Wes, the Black North Initiative is a rallying cry that has picked up considerable momentum recently. What role do allies play in flipping the script and changing the conversation?
Yeah, well, listen, it's absolutely huge, right? Like, we need allies to do this work. We can't do it on our own. The fact of the matter is, it's kind of like, driving somebody else's car, and we have to ask them for the keys, right? Give me the keys so I can use your car. All these big positions, for example, at the top of these institutions, we're not there. Somebody else is there. And, I have insecurities like everybody else does. I stand up in my office, and when I don't stand up, I sit on a ball. And people ask me, why do you stand up? You've been standing up for 20 years. And I said, because this office that I occupy technically belongs to somebody else. And when that person shows up, I'm just going to walk out like I'm the IT guy fixing a computer and he can have it, right? We're unfortunately bred to believe that. Why? Because there's not too many of us around looking like that, right? So when you have more people around looking like that, then those insecurities don't come in. And so we need allies who understand things like those and go, no, we have to change this conversation for everybody. So when I talk about, I mentioned earlier about the press release that CIBC sent out, when I wrote the op-ed that talked about my experience as a Black man on Bay Street, the first text that I got was from Victor Dodig, who is the CEO of CIBC. That was the first text. Now, I didn't know what he was going to say to me because I was calling out the system and I was telling about my experience. And Victor texted me and said, hey, can I call you? And I said, sure. He called me up and he said, Wes, we're friends. What can I do to help? Well, that's my first ally, right? And I said, okay, talk about the circumstances. Then Prem Watsa called me up. Prem, everybody knows Prem is the top entrepreneur in the country, and Prem is an Indian man. Prem called me up and said, can I come over to your house? We live in the same neighborhood. Came over, we sat in my backyard, social distance. And he said, Wes, until you wrote it that way, I didn't get it. I knew Black people were treated differently, but I didn't really get it until you wrote it. How can I help? He asked me. And I just get calls after calls like that from allies that didn't look like me. And that's when the idea came to say, let's form this group called the Canadian Council of Business Leaders Against Anti-Black Systemic Racism. Let's call it what it is, right? Because if you're going to sign a pledge, you're going to say, I am against anti-Black systemic racism. It's not you're against racism, you're against anti-Black systemic racism particularly, and you're going to do something about it. That's what you're saying, right? So if without allies, we couldn't have done this in 7 months. We couldn't have had 440 companies with $1.3 trillion in value, and companies are making daily commitment. It's not like they're just sending the press release. Like Aurora mentioned, what these companies were doing last year was, hey, I'm going to give $500,000 to the NAACP. There you go, problem solved. I don't want your money. I'll take your money later on, but for now, I want your brain. I want us to solve a problem together. And once we realize that solving a problem, sometimes we have to put money at the problem to solve it. So let's figure out what the solution is, and let's figure out how much it's going to cost us to solve it once we come up with a solution, right? These people were doing it the reverse. They were saying, here's money, but they didn't really come up with a solution. So we're saying, here's the solution. So we have 12 committees as part of Black North to solve issues that are systemic. We have a justice committee. 30% of the federal prison population in Canada are from the Indigenous people, 8% Black community, 5% Indigenous in the population, 3% in the Black community. Problem, there's a problem there. We have an education committee. 48% of the expulsion in the city of Toronto are Black kids, only 12% white kids. We have health committee that we set up, for example. We have 26% of COVID-19 cases in the city of Toronto, Black community. We represent only 9% of people in Toronto. 80% of the cases are racialized people in the city of Toronto, right? And we go on and on and on with issues that we're there to solve. And we set up committees. Isaac is chairing our housing committee, for example. And we have this amazing housing plan that we put together, and we shop it into every single level of government. But here's the problem. They don't get it. They feel that let's just give these Black people affordable housing. And they don't realize that what they're doing is that they're putting a funnel that they cannot fill. Okay, I'll give an example. I know I'm going on, but I'm giving you an example. Okay, I'm going to wrap up, right? A single woman, single mother, Black mother in Jane and Finch with 3 kids. The government says, I'm going to give you affordable housing, for example. What does that mean for that single mother? All of a sudden, they got one housing for all 3 kids, all 4 of them. One of the child move out. Now the government has to provide 2 housing. The second child move out, 3. The 4th child move out. Now it's 4 housing that they have to provide. How can you fulfill the demand? And then when those kids have kids, they have to provide housing. So we came up with this housing plan to say one of the ways to create generational wealth is home ownership, right? 46% of the people who buy a home in Canada get it from mom and dad. We can't get the money from mom and dad because mom and dad don't have the money. So how can we create an opportunity whereby that single mother can now have home ownership? She can put in sweat equity into that plan. And now she owned the home. Within 25 years at a 3% increase, that house is worth $1.5 million. She can now put money against that to send her kids to university, to create now generational opportunity for themselves. She can now sell that home and allow those kids to buy a home of their own. The government is now out of the picture, and now that family can support themselves because we're able to empower them economically. So we're trying to think about things differently, but again, it's a community, Black community, coming up with these solutions and saying to the people who've been giving us things that they think we want all along, saying, no, we don't want that. Here's something that we need for you to think, and that mindset is difficult for them to comprehend.
Thank you, Wes. You speak the truth. Okay, so we did get a couple of audience questions, but unfortunately we're running out of time. So I'm going to wrap things up a little bit by ending the discussion today by looking into the future. So to all of the panelists, please give us one statement that gets to the heart of your perspective on the future of generosity. Who will go first? Aurora?
Future of generosity. I mean, I would just also say that you have to put your own life vest on first, you know, and I think in order for us to see our own places in the world clearly, to make the asks that we need, we have to be generous with ourselves and compassionate with ourselves. You know, Wes talked about feeling, you know, insecure. And I think a lot of us who become more successful suffer from imposter syndrome, or, you know, anyone, even when I was a student at Ryerson, I questioned my own, you know, value or worth or abilities to push forward in the space. And I think that we all have exactly what we need in order to be successful, in order to ask for what we want and what we need and to push forward. And so I think that generosity has to honestly start with each other so that we can then figure out how to give back to our communities.
Thank you.
I think we should look in the mirror and ask ourselves, am I going to be the change agent, right? Am I going to be, or am I going to be the victim? And I think when you think about the people on this call, we all have something in common. We're all Black. And we've all have the same obstacles that a lot of people put in our way to say, you should not be successful because you're taking my job. And we look ourselves in the mirror and go, okay, but I'm going to go anyways, right? And they're going to knock us down. You think about pinball. How many times as a running back that he get knocked down? Did he just lay on the field and go, somebody pick me up?
Yes.
You know, the quicker he gets up, the more he tells the other guy that knocked him down that you're never going to keep me down. He can keep on knocking me down, but I'm going to pick up and I'm going to score a touchdown on you, right? And the best revenge that we can get for somebody who don't want us to be successful is to eat their lunch. That's it, just eat their lunch, you know? So I've been doing that on Bay Street all along. I've known all the people who don't want to be successful, and I just hurt them in the pocketbook. And that's what we need to figure out. How do we size up the people who don't want us to succeed, and how do we get one over on them? That's what we should spend our time thinking about, as opposed to thinking about how they hurt us and we can't move ahead because of it.
Thank you, Wes. We only have a few more minutes. Isaac or Michael, do you have anything to add?
I would add it all.
Thank you, Isaac. I would just say very quickly, it is around our common humanity. That word that we allude all the time is love. Love puts others before yourself. The future of generosity is really in our common humanity. And I'd like to defer if Isaac would have something.
Yeah, no, I think all the panelists, they hit it right on the nail in terms of what we need to do, the mirror that we need to look at, and continue to be change makers regardless of the barriers that we face.
Great, thank you so much, all of you. So at the beginning of this discussion, I promised to show a video of the Black North Initiative. So without further delay, we're going to roll that tape now.
Get in the car. I can't move. I've been waiting the whole time, man. Get up, get in the car. Mama. Get up and get in the car right. I can't.
Now let's turn to the United States, to the city of Minneapolis. The city is still reeling from the death of an unarmed Black man in police custody.
I am George Floyd. I am Ahmaud Arbery. I am Angelo Ku. I am too many names to count. And these are just the names of those whose lives were cut short. What about the names of those whose lives were made harder, whose success was stifled, whose value was diminished, whose hard work wasn't rewarded, who fear for their families, who know for them it's just different? The names of those who live with the pain, the burden, and the terror of anti-Black systemic racism every single day.
We live in a time where Black men and women and boys and girls can be choked and shot and beaten and lynched in broad daylight by murderous pigs.
Their time is long overdue. We can't be silent anymore.
Take your knee off our neck.
We can't delay another day. And make no mistake,
so they are frustrated.
This isn't just an American issue.
There is no systemic discrimination.
It's a Canadian one too. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And it's not enough to just not be racist. We need to be anti-racist. It's not enough to just stand in solidarity. We need to move in solidarity. It's not enough to just condemn. We need to transform from the inside out as individuals, as families, as communities, as companies, as a country. Black North is a call to action. It's a movement in the making, and it starts today. We're mobilizing the corporate community to not only transform itself, but to transform the country, to move as one, to end anti-Black systemic racism once and for all. From the boardroom to the classroom and everywhere in between, there is no limit to what we can accomplish together, and the time is now. The world has put us all on notice, and we will answer the call with courage, with commitment, with collaboration and level we haven't seen before, because this is the fight of our lives. So welcome to Black North. Let's get to work.
This is great. I can't think of a better way to cap off this discussion. Thank you, Aurora, Isaac, Michael, and Wes for being part of our kickoff panel. This was a great discussion, but also a very important one. And a huge thank you to our lead sponsor of the Generous Futures panel series, TD Bank Group. You are an ally and your leadership is truly commendable. And thank you as well to our promotional partners, the Association of Fundraising Professionals in the Greater Toronto chapter, the Canadian Association of Gift Planners, and Canada Helps and Image Canada. And thank you to our audience for being with us today. Look out for an email in your inbox in the coming days with a link to a recording of this discussion, and please share it with your network. The Generous Futures series marks the beginning of many more conversations to come. Join us on March 8th for our Women of Color Challenging panel. Details about this event will accompany the recording you receive in your inbox. And I want to thank you all again. And I want to put in one plug before I leave. The Black Law Students Association at Ryerson Law School, one of the largest Black law students associations in any Canadian law school, has very generously donated to its own scholarship fund for Black students. I would encourage you to visit Ryerson Law School's website on the giving page and make a donation. These young people know the promise of giving back. It's not going to them, it's going to their the classmates or that are coming after them. So thank you all once again. This was a lovely discussion, and Godspeed. Bye.